Tete. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Crypto Zombies, where we bring you the best blockchain from the Bay and beyond. Well, what a treat today is. Thank you all for joining us. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Alex Cahana, who joins us from New York. Alex is a dear friend, just a remarkable human being. And Alex, it's a real pleasure to have you on Crypto Zombies here.
It's good. It's good to see you and good to be on board and beyond.
Yes. Just to kind of, light the candle and add a little flavor here. We did a trip with President Aka Awele to West Africa. This is maybe like 2 years ago, give or take.
Yeah.
That trip, you kind of saved the day, I would say, just because your French was really the bridge that connected all of us, because we met like the Minister of Health, the Minister of Technology, the Minister of Youth Affairs. But anyways, we'll get to that. But Dr. Alex, can you lay the foundation for us here? Maybe share a little bit about how you went from working with the Department of Defense and being a pain management doctor to really championing tech for good as it pertains to blockchain and tokenization and working with world leaders. Just fascinating stuff.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a question, by the way, that I ask myself almost every morning.
How do we get here?
But I do want to probably say that at some point in my long career in treating pain medicine, treating people who suffer, I realized that you cannot seriously talk about mental health and physical health if you don't talk about planet health and financial health. And so that's what kind of like got me into technology and got me to see how, I realized technology doesn't do anything. It's what we do with it that makes a difference.
Yeah. And it certainly has the ability to change our behaviors. And that's, for the better. One of the things, don't worry, we won't get too spicy today, but one of the things that always really impressed me with you is like, you don't care what the optics are. You do what's right. And you're not worried about the downstream political effects, which is something you're like 100% authentic and you bring the philosophical, but also the deep technical, and you weave them together in a beautiful way. Just to maybe start us off, Huma, do you want to kick us off with a question here?
I do, yeah. So you seem to be focused in on the blockchain, and in your mind, it's not just a ledger; it's a mindset. Can you define that blockchain mindset?
Yeah, great question. I would say that most of us kind of think of blockchain as, they say public ledgers, transparency, all these kind of things. I didn't even know what the word ledger means, until I dived into it. But then realized that blockchain is the software solution to the social problem of trust. That's really what that is. That, for a long time, but especially post-COVID, the lack of trust, the lack of transparency is really hampered our ability to work together and to, find solutions. And I think that the mindset specifically is to realize that none of us is as good as all of us. It's not that complicated.
You just brought up COVID, and for me, it's sort of like a bit of a trigger question. Do you want to? All right, Chris Kelly's here.
Oh my God!
Party time.
The guy who's Chris, how was your workout?
It was outstanding.
Awesome. So post-COVID, like there was a lot of COVID misinformation. Do you feel like, something like blockchain could have mitigated that misinformation? Because you're right, there is a huge lack of trust in almost every institution post-COVID.
Yeah. The model is not complicated. The model is transparency. When things are transparent, then you have trust. And that trust can be valued. And that's why they use the word token. And if you want to take it further on, you can say you can trail it. And if you want, you could say you could trade with it. But at the end of the day, you know, people just want to, you know, we can handle any information. Just be honest with me. And that's where we get into monkey business, when we're told half truths or just things that are straight out wrong.
So have you ever heard of a company called Alchemy?
Of course.
Oh, Chris. Chris was the first investor, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was with a bunch of others. Yeah, we were all in the seed round. We had backed down to lunch before it pivoted to Alchemy. And in fact, a significant chunk of the pivot happened in this basement right here. That Joe and Nikhil, the founders, and I are particularly close, and we did a whole bunch of meetings in this basement around what has become Alchemy. So I still run Ethereum nodes in my rack down here, sort of as an homage to what we've done and what we will do.
Go ETH! It's killing it right now.
It is killing it right now. So
Speaking of monkey business, how would you explain Web3 to folks who thinks maybe it's just these monkey JPEGs or like NFTs? How would you explain that for us?
Well, you know me, I have kind of like different explanations. Chris Dixon had an excellent explanation of saying read, write, own. So like you own the internet and all that. It's not that it's wrong, but you know, I just always have to come up with something different. So I would say that the number that you put after the word web represents your proximity to the digital world. So Web 1, you're far, you know, I'm here, you're there. It looks like the newspaper, there's nothing happening. Web 2 is what we're doing now. So I kind of have this interface with the computer. I can upload, download. Web 3, okay, I'm starting to be a little bit more immersive technologies. You know, we call it phygital, you know, it's physical and digital. And so that opens up for Web 5 that we are, you know, the internet. We are in the internet. We don't know how to separate between the two. And then, you know, if you really want to go full matrix, then Web 5 would be we are the internet. So I think that's an easier way to understand your proximity to the digital world, which is the data world, the whole world of data that's surrounding us.
All right. So tell us what kind of doctor you are. Like, what kind of, are you like a foot doctor or something like that?
I'm a pain in the tuchus doctor, you know, but it's true. I'm a pain doctor. I built multiple pain centers around the world, and I've really seen the shortcomings of it. You know, by being a pain doctor, like you hear everybody complain, so all the time you kind of like figure out how to fix this, or sometimes you realize, and that's what I realized after almost 30 years, is not all pain is bad, and not all pain relief is good. And I think this is where I came up with this idea of we need to transform people from being passive health service consumers to active health and wealth producers. And that's really what we can do nowadays.
Well, so right now there's Fitbit, there's health trackers, there's gene tests, but it seems like data's still locked away. Does Web3 blow that wide open? Does Alchemy help blow that wide open?
Absolutely. That's the whole point, you know, and that's where people get stumped on this idea of ownership. Right now, ownership means that it's mine. In other words, not yours.
first Sox appearance on the podcast.
Sorry, keep going, doctor.
Sorry.
So ownership means it's mine, so it's not yours. And if you want access to it, you got to pay me.
And that's what sovereignty means, right? In this capacity.
Exactly. But if you start to understand ownership is not just what's mine, but it's actually my commitment to you. You can look at everything in terms of commitment. So like, for example, you asked me, Alex, come to the show. Okay, so what did you do? You gave me credit, right? You used your reputation. You gave me credit to be here in full and be interesting. And so I have a debt to you. And what I'm doing right now is paying the debt. And so if it's going to be awesome, I get a high credit score, you're going to say, come in a month, come next week. If it's going to be not so great, you're going to say, you know what, it's good. Let's put it on hold for a couple of years. But every interaction can be translated in that type of value. And I think people, when they start to understand that ownership means owning your commitments, that's when liquidity pools turn into commitment pools, and that's where data starts to flow, and you get this shared prosperity that everybody's talking about.
Chris, would that be the process of hashing?
I mean, I think that it's whenever you're blending things together in that way and writing a sort of a more permanent record of it, that's hashing. There's just an incredible power to having immutable records of the transactions that go on, and that's, I think, why we're all so excited about the space.
Let's go back to you're an expert in blockchain. You understand Web3. Do you actually invest yourself in crypto?
Just not in anything else.
Like, so what? Like, you got the Trump coin, or what do you got?
Trump coin is a web. It's a web. I invest in projects that are truly Web3, not Web2 projects that are wrapped with Web3 technology. And it's important because right now we have this. We like to call it adoption. I think that it's just a really, what's the word I'm looking for? Co-option or kidnapping by centralization. And I'm looking very worried about the centralization of these decentralized tools, basically now making me wonder that there are different aspects: decentralized coordination versus decentralized governance. And so
maybe that was inevitable, though, right?
Well, again, it's what these are tools. So if you tell to me it's inevitable to use a hammer to break everything, then sure, but I would like to use some hammers to build stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a balance.
And this is where architecture matters, and plans matter, and the decentralization of so many of these systems is something that's a very powerful protection against misuse and against ultimately, I think, misinformation is one of the things that we're talking about more and more, and this will be one of the great themes of this podcast, and I think of our both technology and our politics for the next 20 years.
Well, you guys seem to agree on that. The blockchain is going to reduce the misinformation. Doctor, is crypto a rebel movement, or has been co-opted by the VCs and big tech? Because I know Chris has an opinion on this, but I'd like to hear from you first.
Well, like I said, I'm afraid that let's put it this way: people need to understand the true magic of blockchain. When I go into Barnes and Nobles and I see all the books of blockchain sitting in the finance aisle, I say, wow, we really don't understand what that is. And it should be actually in the social studies or philosophy aisle. And so the day that we're going to find it there, my big thing, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later, is to how do we translate real world interactions into real world assets? Because let's just digitize everything and say, okay, I got this deed on chain, or I got this contract on chain. Sure, okay, I'm already bored saying it. But where the true magic is how can you capture things that are invisible and give them value? Things that intuitively we know are valuable, but we're not getting paid for.
So I could share a quick, interesting story around that. So Brian Talibi's birthday a couple years ago in Vegas, there were some politicians, specifically one of the congressmen of Colorado, and she was able to get these two women married on paper and have it be certified via the blockchain. And these two women actually had escaped from the Middle East, escaped to the Middle East. And, they obviously, the government there is like not so friendly when it comes to, same-sex marriages. And those women, because they were legally married, were able to escape the country. And actually their lives were in danger. So this is like blockchain saved these women's lives via a politician in the United States. That's way more powerful than finance. That's powerful. This is powerful stuff.
It is. That's very eye-opening. Chris, is crypto still a rebel movement, or has it been co-opted by the VCs and big tech? That's you, bro.
But well, so again, like, I am an investor. I'm a very proud venture capital investor. But I mean, I think that I keep my rebel heart, beating deep and strong. And I think that we are are empowering people to make choices. One of the things that I love most getting involved in, and one of the projects that I think will have a longer term effect, that it ultimately failed in its current what it was designed to do originally, but the Constitution DAO was sort of built to have a crowdsourced acquisition of one of the original copies of the United States Constitution, and in a symbolic loss, were eventually outbid by Ken Griffin of Citadel Securities in the acquisition, and so it turned into a temporary victory for big finance against the rebel forces who were trying to band together and buy this Constitution, and then wanted to tour it around the country and around the world as an example of great governance. I think over time you'll see projects like that win more and more over big finance. And I think that, interestingly enough, that whatever anybody else has to say about some of the policies of this administration, and I think that there's rightfully some new concerns being expressed today with some of the things that are going on in Washington, D.C. The crypto policies that have been advanced by the SEC in particular are actually enabling more freedom and operation of some of these great movements that will come on chain.
Wow, that's fascinating. Hey, doctor, you ever hear of a guy named Gary Gensler? What do you want to say about Gary,
Speaking
bro?
of a pain in the tukish.
Well, again, I think
Don't sugarcoat. Be honest for once.
I think it's all intention. The question is, when you go on your GPS, what is the destination that you put? You don't focus on every right turn, left turn, and then while you're driving, it says recalculating. There's a traffic bump, and wait for the next administration. The question is, what's the destination? So for me, the idea of funding, be it venture or all types of capital that are out there, at the end, we're going to go with the digital world into a post-monetary world where really it's going to be all about reputation finance and human capital as a collateral. That's the destination. Now, we can continue to pretend that they're going to be coins and seashells, and everybody's now talking about gold-backed assets. Oh, great! Like, let me understand what the deal is. We're going to go to a country, dig a big hole in the ground, take out the gold, clean it, refine it, then port it, by a plane to another country, dig another hole in the ground, put that in the ground, and then have a lot of people around it to protect it. It just doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, what is truly valuable is us, what we're doing right here now, and that needs to be captured.
So nothing about Gary? You want to say something about Gary Gensler? What are your thoughts on him, bro?
Diversion.
I know, beyond
I
expert.
almost forgot until
I'm like, he's not talking about Gary, is he?
I'm talking about all the Garys in the world. When you don't get it, you don't get it. Again, when centralized entities are worried to lose power or perceive that they're losing power, then they tend to collude and they tend to censor. And this happens on both sides. So I think that we have to stop looking at what's happening in society in general, but in politics in particular, on a 2-dimension left-right, but also on a 4-dimension of up-down. It's left, right, up, and down. And you have those who want to decentralize and those who want to decentralize and centralize. And so it'll have to be somewhere on the 3D point, point XYZ, or if you want it with time, maybe even change. And so for me, Gensler just was a bump. He doesn't represent anything more than people now that just want to maintain power. That's all.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the genesis of the Federal Reserve, back on Jekyll Island with these 12 bankers, which is neither federal nor has a reserve.
Right. We all saw that. We all saw the video.
Yeah, that was great. Made with AI, also kind of cool.
Let's go back to an area that you're an absolute expert in. What is HealthFi? Can you paint a picture of what healthcare is going to look like when it's fully tokenized and a patient-owned system?
Sure. The pain point of healthcare is that we've designed whatever we want to call it here, because it's not a single payer and it's not a free market. So it's some type of, mutation, some Frankenstein that we created here. The main problem is that being healthy is bad for business. And so if you wish, we're all kind of dealing in death coins. There's a pill for every ill and there's a test for every pest. And that's fine. And for me, it doesn't matter if you want pills or not vaccines or yes vaccines. It's all choose your own flavor. The general issue is if you're healthy, you're losing business. Every time when I went to the clinic and I would see a patient, and instead of putting a stimulator and epidurals and injections and this and just talk to them for 20 minutes and they would leave the room happy, my CFO would look to me and say, "What WTF?" So that's the problem. We need to create a new game where being healthy actually creates a virtuous cycle of regenerative economics. Now,
Can I ask?
So,
Go ahead.
I mean, I've seen a couple experiments in this space. Have you seen Sweatcoin that operates on the Near blockchain?
Yeah, that's
It's some of this stuff is not. I mean, it's not going. They're experiments, and they're they've got a lot of evolution to do. But there's some attempts that are out there right now that I mean, and hopefully there'll be a lot more.
I've been doing a lot in Africa. I've been doing a lot in the South Pacific. I've been doing a lot in Southeast Asia. It has to be an ecosystem. Cannot be some widget. If anybody thinks that it's just a thing that I put in my wallet and then afterwards going to work, it's not going to work. There are multi-stakeholders that need to interact. Now, it's not impossible, but it just requires a little bit of good faith. And what we have is what we want is the opportunity to cooperate. And that's the problem, that technologists think only about interoperability and they don't think about intercooperability. And so that's the approach. In order for health to work, and for that matter, anything, DeSci, DeFi, D-Health, whatever you want, you have to create what I call a decentralized regenerative, so like a regenerative decentralized finance to redefine what the token we're dealing with.
Doctor, there are two questions I want to ask you, and I'll let you choose which one's first. One is about stem cells, and the other is about Bhutan. Which one do you want first?
Bhutan, of course.
All right. What's your relationship with Bhutan? What are you doing for them? And brag. Don't be humble.
Well, I've been fortunate to be invited, and since then developed wonderful opportunities to the country of Bhutan. For anybody who doesn't know, Bhutan is a small kingdom of about 800,000 people that is nestled between two giants, India and China. And they are a very mindful, kind, spiritual people. And under that kingdom, they really, really adore their monarch. And it is a forward-looking country where His Majesty has embraced the tenets of, I want to say, Web3 and technology. He understands why technology would make the lives of the kingdom better, and basically said he wants tokenization. So I'm very fortunate to advise multiple people there on what tokenization is, because, obviously now everybody's saying tokenization, but they don't really know what that means. And for me, the explanation, designing this sacred economy is the conversion of anything valuable, which could be deeds, bonds, securities, contracts, whatnot, but also art and prayers and words of wisdom. And how do you convert that into a digital form, i.e. blockchain? Because the problem with most of these countries is not that they're poor, they're just cash poor. They just don't have wads of colored paper that has pictures of kings, queens, colonizers, and slave owners. And it's not that they don't have value, intrinsic value within themselves. And so Bhutan specifically is using what's called the gross national happiness, which basically represents the wealth and health of the nation as such. And we're working on how to tokenize the GNH in a way that can allow them really to capture, appraise, value, and leverage all the talent that's there.
So how is that codified though? Because like GDP, that's pretty clear how we're going to codify that. But gross domestic happiness, what does that look like in practice?
Well, they have anybody who wants to look into that. There are actual domains in it, and in the domains there are actually indicators, and in those indicators they all have numbers to it. So it's
Like
very numeric.
biometrics, like we could see how much people are smiling. Is that kind of how that works?
Well, it's a little bit more sophisticated than that, and it's much more economic than that. So let me just draw a picture of how that would look like. So I'm going up in this village called the Gratitude Village, and right before the temple there's the fortune wheel, and there are two elderly that are always blessing people. Okay, it's not a job, it's not a gig, it's a vocation for them. They have value. If they're not going to be there, people are going to be distressed, but they don't, make money out of it. So how do you capture that with blockchain? So you create faith coins. Everybody who comes in, they scan they scan their phone and they get a token. At the end of the day, they go down to the foot of the hill and they go into the restaurant. And with those tokens, they get a bowl of rice. Now, for the owner, it's very convenient because he would have given that offering anyway to the temple,
Right,
but now he's
right.
giving it and actually feeding someone. And then he's going to the farmer that gives him the rice and says, hey, I want 20% discount because I'm a good man. He says, why are you a good man? Because I'm looking at the ledger and I gave 1,000 bowls. And the farmer says to the other suppliers, I'm a good farmer, and goes on and on and on and on. So you create this kind of relationship where being kind, being mindful, investing in the commons, actually you attach monetary value to it.
First of all, before I get to my stem cell question, Chris, you agree with most of this?
No,
what this guy's saying?
Absolutely.
This
No,
guy?
I think it's brilliant. I think it's a way to think about how we capture those things that are intangible that actually create immense value. The economics of just money flow is being complexified in a healthy way by blockchain-based systems and by tokenization.
All right, here's my question. Since you're a doctor, since you mentioned epidurals, since you are an expert in pain management, how far away are we from like stem cells being able to completely regenerate discs without having to abort fetuses, using stem cells from umbilical cords of newborn babies? Like where is that? And is there a place that you see that doing consistently well if you know about that space?
Yeah, I haven't read recently the breakthroughs in stem cell therapy, so probably anything that I will say is a couple of months old. But obviously, as feeling myself many times pluripotent or omnipotent, I have this affinity to stem cells. Of course, again, I see wisdom. And please note the nuance. I see wisdom where there's pain and there's structural correction that can treat that pain. But as someone who's done for almost 30 years pain management, I would say over 90% of the pain that are in people have nothing to do with broken structures. Is that the body usually heals within 3 weeks to 3 months. And then when it's healed, still the pain stays there. Wow. And so fixing with additional surgery or fixing with drugs that make you not care about it is not the way to go. Now, obviously, I'm biased because I would see all the failures of others. If you go to a surgeon and say, how many chronic pain patients do you have? He would say no one, 0. And why? Because they all came to me. And half of my patients had pain because they had diseases, and had half of them, the other half, had pain because they were treated for those diseases. So I think that our approach to pain, especially chronic pain and in general chronic diseases, is sure there are going to continue to be all kinds of discoveries that I'm very excited about, and stem cells could be one of them. But there's not going to be a silver bullet or a magic there.
I disagree, doctor. I think there will be a silver bullet. Let's just give it another year or two. I have a feeling they're going to figure out the stem cell issue. Let's end with this. What book, philosopher, ancient thinker most shaped your view of Web3?
Oh, I love that question because there is one that actually I really love. He's a Slovenian philosopher. Can I give two? Like one philosopher and another?
Yeah.
Okay, so the philosopher, bona fide philosopher that I like is Slavoj Žižek, Zizek, Slavoj Žižek. He's a Slovenian philosopher. He's in his 70s. I think the only serious philosopher that's out there that has not been, I want to say popularized using social media. He is wicked smart. He has a lisp and a tick, so it's awful. Nobody can watch him on YouTube because he has, he talks very funnily and he touches his nose all the time and rubs his face. So it's like for the average viewer, it's like I can't watch this. I can't even listen to it.
It's like Tourette's. It's like the Tourette's guy.
Oh my God! But the guy, his where it becomes super interesting is his way to find contradictions in the way we think. He has a book called Surplus Enjoyment, where he says it's the guide for the non-perplexed. It's like for people who think that they got it, he just shows how much they did not. And one of the things that I think all the listeners will love is this idea of being unfree by your freedom. This freedom that we gave us has made us unfree. The rat race, the choose between 15 types of yellow cheese in the supermarket. It's like everybody has to go to the same place on TikTok. That has made us really unfree. And the second person that I like a lot, simply because he's a serious economist and he's deep, is Yanis Varoufakis, that talks about techno-feudalism. And basically he reminds us every day that every time you log into Amazon or log into Meta, you've left the realm of capitalism and free markets. You've entered as a feudal, as a vassal or as a farmer into this digital field where you might think that you own things, but you don't own squat.
Bryn, do you want to maybe ask a couple questions from the audience here? We've got some digital.
Oh, grab. We got questions.
Let's see. You want to solicit?
Yeah,
no,
sure.
no, it's there. Do you want to? But I was gonna. The reason I got to Bryn is because I thank you for that. By the way, thank you for sharing those philosophers. I wanted an ETH update.
Oh yeah. ETH is at 42.86 right now, up above $4,000. That's a big deal. It's been struggling.
Big deal.
For a
You
long
invest
time.
or no?
Oh yeah. No.
You happy?
He's been talking about that for the past few episodes.
Yeah,
You happy about that?
I'm very happy about that.
You invest too, Nick?
Of course.
All right, go ahead.
Course,
Ask the doctor one quick question, and then we'll.
Sure. Well, I guess it was just kind of more of a comment, but Callie Ortega says, your mind, and your spirit are benefit to the world, Dr. Cahana. So this is awesome. What a beautiful.
Thank you, Callie.
And a couple other great comments as well. And maybe we could just ask you a little bit about what you're doing with Satoshi Island. What is Satoshi Island?
Well, I want to say that really Satoshi Island is a very good example of where we have difficulties of really translating what we want to do to actually what we really do. And that is where we want to experiment with decentralized living. We want to experiment with, co-ownership. We want to experiment in a world where we love things and use people, and not not that we don't love things and use people, but love people and use things.
Yep.
So and it's very hard.
Epstein Island.
Oh.
And it's very hard because
thank you.
it's very hard because we really are kind of trapped in a certain mindset that we can't shake off. We really can't shake off. And so a lot of folks that invested in the Satoshi token had different expectations than those who are actually pioneering the island. And that's true for any DAO. There are folks that want rapid token velocity and just call it a win and leave. And then those who are hodlers and want it, because they believe in the project. And the problem is when you mix the two together, you always penalize those who have the long view. And to your point, Nick, when you started with, it's true that I don't care what people think, because we are so obsessed of doing things right and optimization and the best trade ever and we forget to do the right thing. And I think we all know what's the right thing.
And
great.
Do you want to wrap it up?
Well, actually, I wanted to see if maybe if we could highlight the last question from Chuck DeSmith. So this is so good. Would love to hear Dr. Cahana take on how blockchain supports our masculine traits of being providers and protectors. Thank you, Chuck.
Oh my God, Chuck! Thank you so much. As an ex-military myself, you know, the Bhutanese or the Buddhists have this concept of the Shambhala, the warrior, that we have totally missed. We have totally forgotten. Only perhaps those who are hunters that understand that you pray for the soul of the hunted before you actually hunt. So those who are hardcore, or those who hunt with the indigenous cultures, but I think that blockchain, you know, again, remember when I said it's about forcing us to work together, to intercooperate, actually puts respect and dignity back into this. And I think that people don't connect what data and AI and blockchain have to do with it. And so the way I would formulate it is that you are your actions, and your actions are captured by data. So every time a third party uses it, loses it, and abuses it, they're taking a piece of you. And that is, to use my 19-year-old daughter's vocabulary, that is not cool. And so we should stop doing that. And that's what true Shambhala warriors do, is that they respect. Not because they want to respect the hunted, they respect themselves, and therefore they respect others.
Fantastic.
Speaking of your daughter, she's a remarkable woman, and you've got some great stories that you shared. Maybe do you want to share like a fun story before we wrap here?
Of course. She she's now a sophomore. She's starting her second year in college. But when she was, you know, in high school, she did not care at all about blockchain. You know, every time, like one day my wife says, the mixer is not working, can you fix it? And my daughter shouts out, yeah, use blockchain, it fixes everything. But, you know, she was not a crypto person at all, but now suddenly she needs to adult, and suddenly she realizes that you don't own anything except your Bitcoin. And so now she said, okay, I'm gonna study political science, poli-sci, and international business under the topic of why men are stupid. And so she's studying that, and she's interning this summer actually on decentralized edge economies. Nice. And so we're talking about M1, M2, M4, this, that, and she's building educational material for economics for children, and, you know, not only Gen Zers, but also Gen Alpha and Beta.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Very cool. Making dad proud. That's wonderful. Right. Well, Dr. Alex, before we wrap, and this has been wonderful today, thank you so much. Is there a website you'd like to share, or maybe a project, or how can folks get in touch with you?
I think LinkedIn is the easiest. It's the best way to reach out. It's still professional. It's relatively non-toxic. I'm not, you know, interested in convincing people. I'm interested into inspiring them, and anybody can just reach out to me on LinkedIn and take it from there.
Yeah,
fantastic.
His content is fantastic.
You haven't accepted my friend request. I sent it over 24 hours ago. I just want to let you know that, Doctor.
Oh my God, that is not cool.
Makes me sad.
That is not cool.
All right, well, Nick, Chris, Bryn, thank you.
Thank you so much.
This has been great. Thank you, Dr. Cahana.
Doctor.
Great to see you.
Oh, you got a theme song.
Okay.
Hold on, we got a theme song.
Right.
Everybody,
You gotta
just
have the
wait.
theme song. It's
Go
important.
ahead. Hold on. It's coming here. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, for more of the best brains in blockchain, thank you, Dr. Cahana, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Everybody.